You haven't heard what your system sounds like until it has clean power.
Yep.
Other dancers may be on.
Deny it all you want to yourself. Say that it's snake oil, say that it's BS. That electrical current has noise in it, distortion. You name it, interference that affects the sound. I could say a few things about the Willsenton R300, and I could say those things in many different ways. I could say them in a very casual. The Willsenton R300 is a wonderful integrated amplifier. It uses two 300B tubes. It also uses two 6SN7s in the preamp, and it also uses a 6LS7. I don't know anything about tubes, so I'm going to pretend that it's 6LS7, SL7, 6SL7. Yes, that's the one. I'm an expert. I know what I'm talking about, and this is the casual version. It also uses two rectifiers. By two, there are two 5U4G rectifiers on this integrated amplifier. It's wonderful. Then we could do the cocaine version. It's incredible. And those two rectifiers, oh my God. That's just nuts. Nuts. Oh my, I'm nuts. Oh my, I'm getting one. Tomorrow morning, I'm getting one. Getting one guaranteed. So the first time I had the Willsenton R300, little did I know, I was experiencing some issues with my Frankenstein of a DAC. I didn't realize these issues had started yet and were happening. The issue was that I was using the super rectifier in the DAC. If you looked at some of my previous videos, I use an external super rectifier that I acquired from Space Tech Labs. And this thing is great. I absolutely love this thing, and I don't understand why I haven't bought a second one yet for other devices. Anyway, in my experiments with this device, I used the external rectifier on some amplifiers that I probably shouldn't have, and what I ended up doing is I ended up shortening significantly the life of the 805 tube that was in this super rectifier. So I didn't realize it yet, but when I used this super rectifier and put it back on my DAC, now with a slowly dying / dead tube, the life was just taken out of my DAC. Understandably, the tube that's there to help deliver current to the DAC wasn't working well. Only I didn't realize it right away because I was manipulating too much gear at the same time. This is why if there's something that simply I know is not working or there's no synergy in the system, I simply bring it back to Thomas or to whoever, and I let them know, sorry, I just didn't get it to work in the system. Because let me give you a tiny little secret. Synergy, right? Everyone's heard about synergy. That's not the secret, by the way. So synergy in components in a system, it is crucial, absolutely crucial. Little shout out to Jay's Audio Lab. Dude, love what you're doing. I love that you brought the MoFi source port 10s in your system. Hi-Fi is a complicated thing. So the secret that I'm about to tell you is, given enough time, I've always been able to make any component, speaker, DAC, amplifier, preamp, integrated amp, source, cables, sound really good. And I've also been able to make any component sound really bad. It's synergy. Given enough time and means and resources, every component in hi-fi arguably can sound good. Some are better than others, sure, but they can all sound very good. So the first time I had the Willsenton R300, I didn't spend that much time with it. I used it maybe for 3 evenings. It sounded good, but I didn't realize that I had a dying rectifier powering my DAC. So the life was kind of slowly being sucked out of my system, and I wasn't realizing it. Why? Because every day things went down a little percentage in degraded performance. But when it goes down gradually, every day it becomes your new reality. You don't notice it. So having that rectifier die on me ever so slowly, it wasn't just an instant pop. It was gradually going. So I just brought the Willsenton R300 back to Thomas, and I said, yeah, and it sounded okay when I had it. It really did. It sounded okay. But combine the fact that I had a system that was on the decline without me knowing, with Thomas telling me how absolutely amazing this little amplifier was, my expectations were very, very high. So when I returned it to him, he was shocked that I was just saying, it's okay. He was expecting me to say how much it is incredible. What? I didn't sugarcoat it? So then, when I returned it, his conclusion to me was, oh, it's most likely because you're using the Lee audio drivers, and full range drivers probably don't like this amp. You need like a really low wattage on the amp. Which we had a little debate about because this integrated amplifier is 8 watts per channel. So to me, that argument did not stand. And I understand what it is that doesn't work in high amplification with these high sensitivity full range drivers. It's not all full range drivers, but high sensitivity full range drivers, by the way. So the not all full range drivers are high sensitivity. The Sibelius speaker is not an ultra high sensitivity speaker. And I believe it's between 84 and 86 dB of sensitivity. Now that is actually low, which was one driver, one full range driver, a small one. In that sensitivity range, a high current amp still made it sound very good. Now, back to the 300, the F15s that I was using and the Fast 15s that I was using and the Platinum 10s that I had at the time that I tested the R300 with are all very high sensitivity speakers. So the 8 watts that the Willsenton R300 and the damping factor that is in the Willsenton R300 are not an issue to drive the F15s. I knew that off the bat. I'm not saying Thomas was wrong about his deduction of full range drivers. Yes, absolutely. Check out his last video about the Moon River speakers from Lyric. Absolutely, and I agree with what he's saying. But the high sensitivity notion here comes into play with full range drivers. It's very important that this has to be considered. So fast forward in time, I realized what my issue was because at one point my system just wasn't sounding engaging anymore. And at the same time, if you guys remember, I made a video about the fact that I was having a little bit of a hum issue. Well, guess what the big hum issue comes from? The big hum issue can happen when you have a faulty freaking rectifier tube in your system. That can cause problems. Now, Cleared that up. Yay. And I know how I killed that tube. Mind you, you could kill a tube at any time. Like a faulty tube's a faulty tube. It just happens. It just sucks when it's an expensive DHT tube, like a 211, an 845, an 805, 300B, because they're usually expensive. So I cleared it out of the way. Everything was working. Anyways, time went by. Made my new baffles. Got to the version with the F15s. Saw how much I was really enjoying the mid-range that was coming out of them. So I messaged Thomas again because I saw his video come out on the Willsenton R300, and man, did he praise it! And I was like, okay, wait a second. It's like I got to try this thing again. Like I need to hear it, and I'm like probably, and I couldn't remember time-wise. I couldn't know for sure that when I had the R300, was it my rectifier that was causing the problem and making because it's in the DAC, it was making the system slowly like losing a bit of life every day. Dynamics were gradually going down. The bass line was slightly going down. Everything was just getting worse, but slowly. So I couldn't tell. Was it in that period of time? So I needed to be sure. So I asked Thomas if I could borrow it again. And of course, he said yes, of course. Like I take it for granted. No, one day he's going to say no. Actually, he said no many times. So I borrowed it, but now I owe him lunch or dinner or a Wagyu steak. I don't know. Thomas, have you ever had a Kobe beef before? I don't know. Well, you just might. Maybe. Got the Willsenton 300 back. Used it with this. I get it. I really do. Everything he said in his video, true. Everything Steve Huff said in his video, true. This thing is one performing little romantic integrated amplifier. How is it 950 USD? I don't understand. The thing has two rectifiers, which, does that mean that it's like somewhat of a dual mono configuration inside? Because there's two rectifiers. Can someone explain this to me? If it's not a dual mono config inside, which I don't see how it can be, but how do you have two rectifiers in there? Someone explain it to me in the comments. I don't know. I will be doing some research, but I haven't found an answer yet. Maybe I could ask Donna. You know, Donna the AI. Maybe I could ask her. So this little freaking thing made my speakers sing. Not only did it make my speakers sing, I took this amplifier to my buddy Carl's place, who is anxiously waiting his Galileo. But unfortunately, it's on a boat in the middle of the Pacific right now. So I said, I got an amp that I want to see how it sounds at your place, because I had to double check what Thomas was telling me, saying, oh, I think it's because your full range drivers are not showing the magic out of this amplifier. You should hear it on a traditional three-way speaker. So that's what I did. And my buddy Carl has Monitor Audio Silver 8s. They're not super high-end speakers. They're very much run-of-the-mill, entry-level hi-fi. Got there, set up a system like it's just a stereo system, because right now he's still in a home theater setup. So we took the Monitor Audios out of his system. I plugged the Willsenton R300, plugged in a Pontus 2, plugged in a Blue Node streamer, and sat down and started listening. And I was impressed. Carl fell off his chair. Of course he fell off his chair because he was running home theater equipment to drive his speakers. So when he sits down to listen to music, soundstage was flat to boring. The sound itself was very flat. The dynamics are so-so. It's just because his system wasn't tuned for it. So sat there. optimized the positioning of his speakers in his room. So it went from 20 inches from the wall up to 8.5 feet from the wall and about 9 feet away from the seating position. We backed up his seating position a little bit. And this amplifier was generating a level of bass out of those monitor audios that I was not expecting. He kept looking at his big SVS 4000 sub, that 120-pound beast of a subwoofer that he has, and he kept looking at it saying, I can't believe that's not on. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. It's a question of synergy too, guys. I got lucky. He got lucky in this experiment. Honestly, the Pontus 2 and the Willsenton R300 matched with the Monitor Audio Silver 8s was just beautiful. Really cool. I didn't want to leave. I was just so happy sitting there. At one point, we just sat and listened to music for an hour and a half. Didn't say a word to each other. Never even touched a volume remote. We left it as is. That's awesome. You know, you listen to songs one after another, especially digitally recording songs. You're listening to vinyl, it's not much of an issue because the dB of the recordings are mostly very similar. Maybe I'm wrong on that. Okay, maybe my memory's playing a trick on me on that one, but I don't recall ever playing with the volume that much. But when you're sitting on Tidal and you're going back and forth between different genres of music, come on, man. Some songs are recorded at feels like they're recorded at plus 15 dB. Some songs feels like they're recorded at plus 2 dB. Some songs feels like they're at minus 2 dB. You're playing with the volume because some songs are peaking at 95 decibels in the room. Some other songs are barely climbing above 80. This time, didn't have to touch it. No matter what we played, everything was beautiful. Made me freaking think that Zeppelin was an audiophile recording. It was beautiful. It sounded great. And at the end of the day, I said, "Do you feel like this is an audio nirvana moment?" And he said, "Yes." So it didn't mean that this was the best sound in the world on the planet. No. What it meant is considering the components, the level of the components that were there, his room, the performance that was coming out of this chain was spectacular. He kept saying, "Oh my God, it sounds like a X amount of dollar system or X dollar system." I kept saying, "No, it doesn't. It sounds like an $8,000 system," which is what it was. But it sounds like an $8,000 system that did everything an $8,000 system can do out of 10 on 10. And I think that is what makes this a magical experience. For $950 USD, the Willsenton R300 made me have very, very silly thoughts. Thoughts like, why do I need to keep my Melody integrated amplifier? A $7,000 to $9,000 amplifier. Why do I need to keep that? It's better than a Willsenton R300. But is it that much better? Depends. Depends on the system I put them in. Like I said, guys, everything can sound good. Everything can sound bad at any level. An $8,000 system can sound amazing. A $50,000 system can sound amazing, can sound bad. A $1 million system can sound amazing, can sound bad. No. A $1 million system at its best will sound better than an $8,000 system at its best. The point here is, when someone tells you this amplifier is amazing, and you get home and you plug it in with your speakers, your DAC, your preamp, your stuff, it doesn't always sound incredible. And the opposite is also true. All right, that's enough seriousness for today.